All right, hello guys. We're back. Also I do want to say sorry if I'm a little late. I know you guys are used to me starting a couple of minutes before the stream starts. But yeah, I had some things going on right before the stream. So yeah, we're here all the same. Let me make sure we are good on YouTube, that we're up and good to go. Hi Matthew. Hi Matthews. Matthews. Hi Ghost, how are you? So again, today we're going to be doing another Q&A for Winds of Winter. We're going to be doing the Dornish slash the Reach part of this world. So we'll be getting in there. Let me just check. Okay, I think we are good. All right. So let's get to my Q&A. And like I say, in every one of these, every single one, if you guys have questions and you would like them answered for a stream, you can go to the Instagram or the Discord, or you can just, I guess, wait for that. And Matthew, technically this wasn't for the Iron Islands, but I did it for Euron because he's in the Reach. But yeah, we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Hi Amir, how are you? Hi Santino. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, so again, if you guys ever have questions, you can always go to my Instagram, or you can go to Discord, or you can just wait for the YouTube community post. I don't think I have any questions on Instagram outside of what Matthew James Hagen asked me. So first question we'll go from there is, who do the Tyrells end up backing in the end? And I really liked this question because in reality, it's a very difficult question to think about. Who do the Tyrells back? Because at this moment, right, you'd be looking at them going, right now they're connected to the crown, but we know the crown's probably going to go down. The Lannisters are bound to fail at some point. So how is that going to go? Will they just kind of stay out of the way? What will they do? So I think for me, I am someone that likes the idea of them kind of staying out of the battle with Cersei and Young Griff. I think it makes sense. I think for the short term, the Tyrells are going to be dealing with Euron's stuff. So how is that going to work? And to me, we have to think, I am someone that believes Mace Tyrell is going to die. I think Garland Tyrell could die. I think Loras could die if he's not already dead. Marjorie could be dead. I think Willis will be kind of the last Tyrell, in my opinion. I think he would be the last person. But who are they going to support? I could see them supporting Young Griff, but here's the issue with supporting Young Griff. Well, he's going to be backed mainly by the Dornish, it would seem like. The Dornish, the Tyrells don't get on too much. If Arianne ends up marrying Young Griff, Tyrells don't really have that way of getting back into the line of succession. Would they go ahead and maybe back Dany's side? Maybe when, again, we see everything that happens with Young Griff and all of that, I think it could be fine if they just backed Dany. I could see that. I think in the end, it could be a Dany situation that they end up backing. They stay out of it for a little while and then go with Dany. The Iron Islands are criminally underrated. I agree, and I was going to kind of do a stream for them by themselves, but they've kind of been looped into this stream as well, so yeah. Hi Metal, how are you? Which period are we talking about? What do you mean, Amir? So I'm just kind of talking about, like, the Winds of Winter. Like, those regions, those plot points going into the next book. Hi Louise. How are you? Also, Brazil sounds fantastic. I had one of my friends who went on a cruise, and he went around that area, I think. So, yeah. Tell me, how do you like living in Brazil? I'm just curious. Yes, Amir, right now, basically. That's basically what we're going to be looking at. A lot of these Q&A streams are just going to be kind of focusing on the Winds of Winter stuff right now. Maybe we'll do some streams later on where it's kind of like talking about the regions as a whole, like where they came about, their origins, and all that stuff. So that's my Instagram question. I didn't have much else on that. So now we'll head over to some of the Discord questions I had. We had some interesting questions this week, some very interesting ones. So Maz kind of hit me with some interesting stuff, as he always does. But It is a Dorne-related question. So, what would have happened if Baelor Hightower didn't fart in front of Elia? He was the eldest son of Lord Hightower, one of Elia's best suitors, and they supposedly liked each other. If they got married, it could have made a Dorne-Reach alliance and prevented Elia from marrying Rhaegar in turn. Aerys from holding her hostage and forcing Dorne into the war. That fart could have saved thousands of lives. Yes. Now, this is an interesting point, right? So, in the alternate timeline, where would Aerys look to find someone for Rhaegar? And we know at this point, there was kind of this alliance that was forming between the North, the Vale, the Stormlands. All of these kind of houses were kind of combining. And if the Reach now, because again, the Hightowers are married into the Tyrells, so their interests are going to be kind of aligned usually. If the Tyrells are now allied with the Dornish, who is really the main support group for the crown? What does Aerys look to do, and how he is going to make that a marriage alliance for Rhaegar? Now, we know that he wanted someone of Valyrian blood that ended up not panning out that well. Where would that go? Would he maybe try a Velaryon? I don't know if there was a Velaryon that was of age at this point for Rhaegar to marry. What would have happened? Would maybe have Rhaegar made his own marriage alliance? Could we have seen maybe Cersei? Maybe Cersei eventually just gets in because there's nobody else? I don't think Aerys would have liked that one, but maybe Rhaegar would have seen the wisdom in tying their two claims, or not claims, but tying the Westerlands to the crown. It makes sense. Again, in all reality, this could have possibly saved lives, as we're talking about, because the main issue with Rhaegar and why he goes with Lyanna is Elia couldn't have more kids. So that could be something that could have been very interesting. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, Maz. For a real question, though, do you think Lady Nym and Tyene will stick with information gathering in King's Landing, or do you think they'll end up going after a target? Yeah, so I think they're going to be involved in a couple things. I think when we do see that young Griff is coming to King's Landing, I think they're going to be involved as the idea of letting young Griff into the city, but also I think they could be involved in the killing of Tommen and possibly Myrcella, one of the two. Just based upon the fact, I think we're going to see this idea of the sack of King's Landing once again. And again, for young Griff, it's going to make sense for him to want Tommen off the throne. He has to probably die. Myrcella is also another person that has a claimant off of that. So I think they could definitely be involved in targeting those two. Moving on, we have Evie's question. Actually, let me talk about something in the comments. Hi, random stuff. How are you? I think the monetary benefits of Cersei make sense. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a very good match for Rhaegar, would have been Cersei to Rhaegar. But the issue is like, how much power does Aerys going to have over this marriage if he can't find anyone like that he wants? Because the idea of why that never happened is because Aerys just looks at the Lannisters as servants, and he doesn't want to marry the heir to the throne to a servant. And that was kind of the issue. When I read about Robert's rebellion, I always had a feeling that the houses that supported Robert were already planning to overthrow the Targs, Rhaegar, and Aerys just kicked it off. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if we look at the building up of this time period, it's very suspicious that this entire culmination and a good portion of Westeros was kind of allying themselves at this point. It's very odd. It's very suspicious. It's why there's some Maester kind of conspiracy stuff going on around that period. So yeah, I agree. I think it's very suspicious. Do you think the lands of the Vale can invade the lands of the Riverlands because Peter is the overlord of the Trident and need to reduce Frey influence? I think it would make a lot of sense for Littlefinger to have the objective to be to take back the Riverlands. He could do this in the name of Sansa, so it would make complete sense, get revenge. I think the Vale would be on board with that, trying to get justice for the Starks. And again, there's a lot of people that wanted to go to war in the Starks and the Riverland Alliance there. So I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense for him to have a lot of ambitions there. And also for Littlefinger, he has a claim to that as well, like you talked about. So I think that makes a lot of sense. How are y'all? Just got done with cooking up another batch of what is that random stuff? Hi, Ashley. How are you? Oh, I think they wouldn't necessarily want to dispose a dynasty, but simply create a power block to weaken the crown's power over. Yeah, that also could be very true. If you're culminating all these groups together, you're by this you're going to reduce the power of King's Landing and of the throne, because if you piss off one of these factions, well, all of these factions are now grouped together. And if this is what's even more wild, right? Let's say in this scenario, right, that Ned and Ashara, right, they did want to get married. Let's think about this now. This could really be interesting. So we see that Brandon is going to marry the Tullys. So that's going to happen. They're linked, right? So the Tullys, Starks, all interlinked. We then see the Baratheons. Robert is trying to marry Lyanna. So the Starks again with that. We then see that the Vale is already kind of tied in, already has like this like fatherly figure of the two of Ned and Robert. And then we would see, say, again, in this Elia situation, where let's say Elia and the Hightower, Baelor Hightower, did become a thing. So now the Dornish and the Reach are now tied together. Well, if Ned then was going to marry the Danes, connecting the Dornish, everyone's kind of connected except for the Westerlands and then the Crown. So you could see how all of the kingdoms would then be against him. And that'd be a very powerful thing that they could use. Practically all the great houses had engagements with each other prior to the rebellion. Exactly, Amir. Zurich is a Polish soup made from zakwood, which is basically fermented rye flour, water, and garlic, onion, sausage. That sounds very good, random stuff. I would love to try that. That sounds really awesome. That, especially because I'm hungry right now, that sounds really good. And before anybody asks, I'm still drinking green tea at the moment. I got to get through it, but yeah. All right. So Evie's question, or questions, is what is going to happen to Sam in the Winds of Winter because he is in Old Town? So I think Sam, like I've kind of talked about, he's going to be learning, trying to find more information for going against the others. And I think he's going to make a lot of strides in that. There's also other information he can maybe find. The show went this whole idea that there was like the annulment that was at Old Town. I don't know if he's going to find something like that, but again, he could find all of this information that could be useful to the story. I think the big part of why him being there makes sense and why it's going to be impactful to the story outside of that is we know Euron's coming to Old Town. And presumably he's probably going to sack it. That's probably what his objective is going to be. Somebody is, I think, asked, I don't know if it was you, Matthew, but is Euron going to be able to hold Old Town? And that's something I don't think he's going to be able to do. So I think his objective is going to be kind of similar to like the Shields, where it's like he kind of takes it, but then moves on type of deal. That's what I think his plan is going to be. So to me, I think he's going to find and run into Sam. He's going to see this horn for probably what it is, something special. I think it's going to get blown at some point. That's going to bring down the wall. So what does Sam do after this point? Again, I don't think Euron's going to take it. I think Sam's going to get out of this fine. I don't think Sam's story is going to end here with Euron killing him or taking him hostage. I think Sam will probably be fine. I think Sam, after this point of the story, this is going to be probably towards the back half of Winds of Winter, with Old Town being sacked, I think he is going to be on his way going back up north to help Jon in all of this fighting with the others. If Tywin had or by the way, hi Andrew, I saw you as well. If Tywin had an in with Cersei marrying Rhaegar, would the rebellion even happen? Tywin and the Westerlands would have crushed the rebels alongside Rhaegar and the Loyalists. This is a great point as well. So if Tywin is on your side, there would not have been this period where the Riverlands would have just kind of been out of the war. Tywin would have actively been aggressing them, and that would have put pressure on all of these factions to meet up much quicker than they need to. Think about how long it takes to get the North to come down south in any war, right? Think about this in the Dance of the Dragons. Think about it in the Robert's Rebellion. It takes a substantial amount of time to gather these armies at Riverrun. If Tywin is helping the Crown, that is not going to happen. Just like what we see with the normal story, Tywin starts raiding, invading the Riverlands as soon as things starts breaking out. So again, I think you have a great point there, Matthew, that how would that have gone? Yes, that Tywin, maybe they would have had less men, and they would have had less like family supporting them, but the Lannisters with the Targaryens, that would have been two very powerful two powerful houses together. Hi Jesse, how are you? I think there was Edmure Cersei pairing somewhere in the mix. That could be true. I mean, I feel like to me though, if I was Tywin, I'd probably want to get a bigger arrangement. But that does make sense though if you're Tywin. If you could get Edmure, Edmure is going to become the person that's Lord of the Riverlands. You would ally yourself to them. It would secure your borders. Because remember, the Riverlands are like right there on the border of the Westerlands. It's one of the biggest parts of Robb's campaign and all that going on. So it makes sense to establish that as your borders. I don't think it's as like high up as a marriage though as Tywin would have wanted trying to get on the throne or something or like that. If you want, I can send you the recipe. Random stuff. If you want to, go ahead. Send me the recipe on either Instagram or you can just put it on Discord if anybody else wants to try it. What do you think the odds of Highgarden getting sacked by the Ironborn or the Dornish are? And I love this theory. This is a very interesting theory, Jesse. The first time I heard about the theory of Highgarden possibly getting sacked was in History of Westeros. Like, they did a video on the history of Highgarden and they had a little bit of predictions. But when you look at the projection of what Euron's been doing, and I talked about this a little bit already on stream, is the idea that Euron at this point is kind of attacking things to get people to come over to where that is, to draw attention away from where what his real target is or where he's going, and then going to the next place. So, for instance, could he be doing this where Old Town is not the prize he wants? He could try to get all these forces to come, rescue Old Town, and then go right up to the Riverlands. Or not Riverlands, up to Highgarden. I could see that. I think it'd be interesting. Do I think it would work? I don't know, personally. But I do think that would be pretty cool. According to the Prosia, if Daenerys burns and destroys Volantis, how will this impact her image? I think it'll... I think this is my thing with anything Dany does when it comes to burning down a settlement. It's not going to paint her in a good light because people are going to spin it as she's insane, like Aerys, she has no restraint, this or that. Regardless of what Daenerys' actual motivations are and why she does the things she does, it's going to be used against her. And that's the thing, is that when you are young Griff and you're the one that kind of maybe helps liberate King's Landing and free all this, the people of Westeros are going to look to you as the hero. And when they see or hear things like, Dany has these dragons, she's burning whole cities and innocent people, regardless of what actually happened, it's going to paint her in a very negative light. So I think that will definitely affect her image and how people view her. I've seen theories that Euron will take Hill and blow Sam's horn there to make the wall fall. That would be really cool. I personally just like the idea of Euron blowing the horn at the High Tower, basically, in Old Town. I think that'd be really cool. The Riverlands are never safe. That is correct. They are the hardest to defend, just because they're centralized. They're very easy to invade. And not all the Storm Lords supported the Rebels. The Darius, for example, and I think the Wents too. Yeah, we're not exactly sure on the Wents. I'm not sure on that. I don't think we know definitively if they did. But other houses like the Rikers also were involved in that as well. So yeah, again, we could definitely see some of that, where it's like you're Hoster Tully, you declare, but at the same time, not all the Riverlords are backing you, and you have the Westerlands already on you. Again, it's a really interesting idea. Where do you think Euron's going after Old Town? So if Euron survives the entire stuff of Old Town, and by the way, hi Violet, I'm not sure what his plan is going to be, because if he blows the horn and the wall comes down, whatever, what does Euron do with this, right? He's going to be kind of around the Reach. I really am subscribing and liking the idea of him going to Highgarden. I could see him going to Horn Hill as well. I think that would be makes a lot of sense. But the question, though, would be, what can Euron do go up from Old Town? Because it seems like every single little invasion or sacking, he's going up. Could he maybe try and go to King's Landing? I don't think so. But for me, I think it does make a lot of sense. He could try and get Highgarden. They are rich. It's a massive step up. I really like that idea. But I could see King's Landing, but I do like the idea of Highgarden a little bit better. I thought there was a Jaime Lysa thing in the works, but it fails because they disliked each other. There was that, and also Jaime at this point, again, would have become on the Kingsguards. That would have kind of foiled that as well. But yeah, I think that would have been an interesting alliance as well, Ashley. There can only be one Matthew. We need to have a Matthew tournament to see who can be Matthew. That's what I also thought, Santino. Also, I think I put too much sugar in this. It's a little too sweet. Yeah, the Advocate, I agree. I think Quentin's dead. I don't really like the idea that there's like a fake out death that Quentin's really still alive. I don't know. I personally think he's dead. That's one thing I liked about season 7 of Cersei's propaganda campaign. Yeah, and this is something that's very logical that is going to happen. Is there, if you are going against Dany, you are going to spread all misrumor. You're going to play on every single thing you can to paint her in a bad image as this foreign invader who you shouldn't wanting to be back, trying to flip some of the people that are on her side. That was one of the better things about that. Yeah, I agree, man. We'll be seeing a lot more of that in House of the Dragon Season 2. Agreed. Where the hell is Billy Bob? Billy Bob works on their own timeline. What do you think, or what type of atrocities do you think Arya can do? So, there's kind of two ways I feel like George can go with Arya's character. I think one of them could be she could be going to the Riverlands. She sees Lady Stoneheart and the interaction she has there, possibly giving the... So one of the atrocities you could say would be killing her mother, which would be kinslaying. Killing your mother's not a great idea. That could be one. But I am someone that believes that Arya is going to be on this path where she runs into Stoneheart and she's going to go, huh, this is what anger, revenge, all of these things have done to me. I do think it could be interesting that Arya could actually turn into not a vengeful character. But if that's not true, let's say she is still vengeful. Oh, by the way, as soon as we bring up Billy Bob, here's Billy Bob. But good to see you. We could see Arya possibly trying to assassinate Cersei, trying to assassinate Dany, any of these like people that are high ups. She could be involved in killing some Freys. If Roose Bolton gets away, she could kill Roose and possibly Ramsay. There's limitless things that George can do with Arya at that point. Sugar and green. I know, Matthew. I know. And glossy. I miss my rivals. Well, Matthew, that's what happens when you get rid of your rivals. But I have no idea what she's doing either. I don't know. Oh yeah, isn't that where the rumors of Cersei sleeping with Aerys came from, thwarting her father, marrying Jaime off by persuading Aerys to make him a Kingsguard? Yes, that's where a lot of that came from, Ashley. The Dothraki will destroy the Water Gardens. I really hope not. The Water Gardens seem like a nice, peaceful place, but yeah. The Water Gardens remind me of just like a summer hall type place. I heard this theory that a reason Quentin got burned alive because Viserion was nesting and Rhaegal was being overprotective of Viserion. That's a really cool theory. I like that. I haven't heard that theory before, but I could definitely see that. Have you read the Arya Win Sandwich chapter? A good indicator of what Arya will be up to, minus the whole 11-year-old girl working in a brothel thing. I have read it. It has been a little while. The last time I read the Wins chapter was when I was doing my... I did like an Arya Winds of Winter prediction video probably a couple months ago. That was kind of the last time I read it. But yeah, that's a great point, Advocate. Arya will run into Jane Poole. Justin Massey is taking her to Bravos. Yeah, that would be a cool interaction for her to have. That would be a really cool one. I worship the goddess of tits and wine. Of course you do, Billy Bob. If Arya turns away from a vengeful path, it'll be interesting if she comes across Sandor as the Gravedigger. Yeah, that could be really interesting as well. And that could be something that it could even reinforce Arya on the idea that maybe this vengeful path isn't the best way. And maybe we might see something that tests that. Like, maybe something really impactful happens to Arya or the Hound that pushes them to be more violent, to test what they may do. I don't know. Had time to drop in for a bit, meant to drop in the last couple of streams, but not really notified, and they were done by the time I saw them. Fair enough, Billy Bob, fair enough. The question is, will a waif stab Arya 100? Yeah, oh yeah, of course. And then she'll like roll around in the dirty like disease water too. Yeah, of course. All right. Let's get on to Evie's second question. Which of the Sand Snakes is going to make it to the end of the series? And my quick answer to this, Evie, is I don't think a single one. I think they are all going to die. I think the two that we see in King's Landing are going to die to Dany. I think it's Obara right now that's going to hunt down Darkstar, and I think he's just gonna, or she's gonna switch and actually go with Darkstar. But to me, I think all of them are destined to fail. I really like the idea that Doran Martell kind of watches his entire family die because of the planning that he did, the things he put in motion, his inaction. So I think a lot of them are going to die. I think you guys are bringing up a good point that Sorella could be one that survives. That makes the most sense. I think out of all of them, I think that's the most likely one that survives. I think the rest are dead. I'm still in mind that the Hound is brought out of retirement by violence one last time. I hope. Yeah, I think he's going to. I just think that's where the story's heading with this character, but I would love it if we didn't see him anymore. I wish, he got a happy, nice ending where he could find some peace in himself, and I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, Santino, I think that'd be a really cool idea if we did get to see the Hound with Arya and having this idea where, she looks back at the Hound and where his life has gone because of his vengeance, because of his anger, things that have done that. And now he is someone that maybe has found peace as being kind of an example for Arya. I think that'd be really cool. Elia Sand, dead. They're all dying, Jesse. What do you think Darkstar can do next if he steals the Dawn and kills Hoda, Balin Swan, and Obara? So I think Obara is going to switch to his side. I think Hoda, Balon are going to die. I think Obara switches to his side. And I think what Ashley's going to get on me already. But I think that Darkstar could be a character that could really be a pain in the ass for Doran. Because Doran is someone that is kind of hiding some stuff. There's some things that a lot of people don't know. A lot of the stuff with Myrcella kind of been on hush-hush. He could be someone that really creates some issues. Darkstar could reveal some of Doran's planning and all this stuff and really push Doran into a hole where he kind of has to support young Griff. He can't really play both sides, and that could be his downfall. I also could see something where Darkstar kind of has his own regiment. He kind of takes over an army. Again, he has the sword. So, again, Dawn, he could do some damage. He could start invading the Reach. He could be someone else that's kind of doing that. I think Darkstar could be a really impactful character. Now, long-term, I'm not sure what he does. I don't know what he does. I think Jesse brings up a great point. I really like the idea of Darkstar being like a Vulture King type. I really like that idea. There was a theory that Darkstar would join Aegon's Kingsguard for safety. That would be something that he could do as well. Again, having another Dane next to young Griff, the son of Rhaegar, and we know how good of friends Rhaegar and Arthur were. Again, could be something like that. We're not there yet, Billy Bob. We're not there yet. We're still on Discord questions, okay? We're just calm down, Billy Bob. We're getting there. Ashley, it's not my fault, okay? It's not my fault. He might be sent to the Black. Yeah, that would be really cool as well if he was sent to the Black. Yeah, that would be really cool if we did see Blackfire with Aegon and then Dawn with Darkstar. Darkstar is the anime kid. I agree, Carson. I agree. All right. I think this is the last one we have for Discord. Matthew, my boy Crooks, in chat, my most faithful mod, says, I think I have an interesting one that Evie made me think of for a very minor character. Do you think the young Sam will play a role in the books? Obviously not a big one, but do you see him surviving the story or ending up in some tragic ending that will either make or break Sam and Gilly's relationship? And to add to Evie's second question, who do you think will rule Dorne by the end of the story? So the second question, I don't know. Because I don't know if House Martell makes it out of this. I could see an Ironwood possibly ruling over them. Maybe, I don't know about the Danes, but I could see an Ironwood. I'd say they're like that kind of like the second most powerful house there. So maybe one of them. I'm not sure who's going to rule over Dorne by the end. But Little Sam, I do think is going to make it to the end of the story. I don't think there's going to be a ton revolving that character that's going to separate Sam and Gilly. But I think that's an interesting question, Matthew. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Not sure. I could definitely see them trying to kill Marjorie. Again, a lot of bad blood between the Tyrells and the Martells, or just the Dornish in general. So yeah, I could definitely see them trying to kill Marjorie. Possibly they could be involved with killing maybe a Loras if he's still alive, or a Willis or a Garland. I think Willis is probably the safest of the Tyrells. Watch when Winds of Winter comes out and Willis dies, and some of the other Tyrells are alive, and this gets clipped. Just, yeah. Put it there. I think he joined Fagon's Kingsguard for a chance to compete with Arthur's reputations, but he's extremely jealous of Arthur and all the adoration he gets. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Ashley. By the way, just because we keep talking about young Griff, I am so frustrated, lads. I had a video recorded. Like last night, I was like, okay, let me just get this video done for Saturday and all that. It was a 50-minute video. It was like a reaction to In Deep Geek's video on who is young Griff. It was really a good video. I really enjoyed recording it. I go back to OBS to look at my recording. It froze about 11 minutes in. Didn't record anything past that. So I basically wasted like 40 minutes of my time. That's all I got to say. I'd like to see Sorella legitimize and have her rule Dorne. That would be cool if she did survive. That'd be really cool. I think a random low branch Martell ruling. Yeah, I think that makes sense as well, Billy Bob. Edric Dane will be that'd be a good one. I like that idea. Will Sam interact with his dad again in the books? Let's think. So Sam is. I think that's possible. I don't think it's unheard of. I think that'd be really cool for his storyline. But I'd like to see that, yeah. Who do you think will win, Garland, Tyrell, or Harlock? Garland is leading an expedition to retake the shields where... Oh, I think Garland's going to win. I don't think this is when Garland dies. I think Garland's going to die in probably another battle. I think it's kind of being propped up where Euron is kind of letting some of these people, die. Like, he knows that he can't hold all these places. I hope you go back and redo it. I may. If I do it, it'll probably be a couple of weeks from now, because if I do it again, I want to go into it where it's like it's not fresh in my head, and I can kind of react to it the way I did the last time. But yeah, I don't know. I'll probably do it if I do it. I might do a different reaction while we get back to that. But yeah. Do you think Sam will get back to the wall and wins? No. So I don't think he's going to get to the wall. I think he probably gets to around the Riverlands where we see our forces of the North retreating. That's where I kind of see him. I don't think the wall will still be intact by the time the others get through, or by the time Sam would be going north. I think Varys has Tyrick or Tyreek Lannister on this YouTube channel on hand so he can become Lord of the Westerlands in Aegon's name, even though he has to get rid of... Yeah, I agree. I think that is what Varys' plan is right now, to install Tyrick or Tyreek Lannister as his puppet ruler. All right, so that kind of moves us into our YouTube question. So questions. We had a lot, I think. It was either that or it was a lot of people commenting on other people's questions. All right. Matthew Stewart, the boy Matthew Stewart, who's in chat. Will we see Krakens ravage the waters of Old Town? Chance of any other Eldritch horrors appearing? I love the ties to Lovecraft in A Song of Ice and Fire, and just getting a few more hints at things in the deep would be awesome. I definitely think there's a chance we could see Krakens in the waters of Old Town. Just based upon the blood ritual that's going on, the sacrifices going on right now, I think it would play into Euron really, really well. So I do think it's a pretty solid possibility. I think it'd be really cool to see. Other horrors, I don't know. I think the other horrors we probably would attribute to prize stuff that would be going on with the others. Like the ice spiders, like ice giants, things like that, as well. Ashley's question is, will Alaris go north with Sam to escape Euron? I just have this picture in my head of Sam's crew, including Alaris, being unable to stop Euron, but managing to flee with the horn to prevent it from falling into the right hands, or the wrong hands, or falling into his hands, which would be catastrophic should he obtain it. Of course it is. Of course, if Alaris is Sorella, there's a chance she parts ways with her crew and goes home to Sunspear. This might be crazy, but Could she take the group there since it's the closest safe place? I would tend to believe if it is Sorella that she would be more inclined to go help her family, so I don't think she would go with Sam. And also, I do think that Euron is going to get the horn regardless. So yeah, that's kind of my quick answer to that, Ashley. Dorne Shoulders versus the Northern. I could see that, Alvarez, as well. Giant Squid will destroy the High Tower. That would be pretty cool. Will Euron capture Marwyn's glass candle when he sacks Old Town? Or does Euron already have a glass candle? I don't know. I feel like that could be something that he would definitely want. But yeah, I definitely could see him wanting those things as well. No problem, Ashley. No problem. Thank you for doing your... I know you have another question. I see it, but thank you for always putting questions in. This question comes from Ghost T. Do you think House Martell will survive in the books? By this point, all of Doran's plans have failed, and I don't think young Griff will marry Arianne. It's also sad because the Martells wasn't really embedded in the conflicts of Westeros, and only really got involved when they were threatened or forced to. If only the Mountain didn't do some things to Elia and kill her and her children, then the Martells wouldn't be in this predicament. If House Martell was not to survive, I think a small cadet branch could assume power, just like the Lannisters. Love the channel. Keep up the good work. Your Grace. Thank you, Ghost, as always. And we kind of talked about this. I already kind of answered this question already. I do think the Martells, for the most part, are probably going to get wiped out. I could see the Ironwoods definitely being someone that has a claim to that, or some lesser branch of the Martells definitely could assume that power. And something that you mentioned here was, well, if Elia, hadn't died, Elia's position was already kind of in a weird spot, because what did Rhaegar think of Elia once he was with Lyanna? Like, was his plan to keep Elia, like, as his wife, who would become the queen? Was Rhaegar trying to have two wives? Was he going to annul his marriage with Elia, so then she was going to be in an awkward position? There's a lot of question marks we have about Elia and Rhaegar's relationship towards the end of it. But yeah, I do think it's interesting the way the Martells have taken such a passive route. And I think the thing that's very poetic is I think they're going to get back into the story, and I think they're going to fail. I think they're going to choose the wrong side. And for me, I do see Griff marrying Arianne, and I think that's going to be a decision that in the short term is very beneficial to them, but in the long term is going to be detrimental to their house. But yeah, thank you for your question, Ghosty, as always, and the kind words. Ashley, who has another question, but it's unrelated to tonight's topic. What are your thoughts on Jawahar Exo? I hope I said that name right. By the way, I just got to Sansa's chapter where we first see our first viewing of this character. And Ashley says, I don't see anyone talk about him ever, and I get he's a D-lister, but still, he's been one of Robert's courtiers forever, practically from Robert's ascension, but Robert never dismissed Jawahar, despite also never teaming up with him as he wanted. Cersei swears up and down that she'll get rid of him now that Robert's dead, but never does. Joffrey even kept him on as a courtier, and Jawahar is allowed to spend time with Marjorie and her cousins outside Olenna and Mace's presence. That alone is pretty intriguing. It just seems like George is keeping him around for another reason, if he's made it this far, but I can't put my finger on what it is. Just thought he might be fun to discuss. Personally, I have no idea, Ashley. I don't know that much about this character to really form a good opinion on that. So I'd be interested what chat thinks, what people may be viewing this after the video or the stream is gone as a video. Think about this character. I don't really know what I would make out of his character, personally. Are the Dornish brown in the book like the show? I think, yeah, they're like, I know they're at least very much tan. But yeah, they are quite different than like the normal Westeros person. That's something that we see, like what divides them so much with the Dornish wars for so long. It's kind of that idea. But yeah. I see the marriage because how else will Aegon have a sizable army to face Dany and dance with? So I think possibly you could see maybe the Tyrell's flip would maybe be a reasoning as to why his army it would be pretty sizable. But yeah, I think, or maybe Sansa goes with him. There's a couple options, but I think Ariane's the most likely for me. I don't think the Faith would have let him annul the marriage, but maybe he would marry Lyanna in the ways old Valyria and the old gods. Yeah, that's very possible. What do you expect from Theon? And honestly, I think he died to be reborn stronger, become a new Grey King, and annul the election. So this is something we had as another question from Matthew. So I'm actually going to answer that now. Matthew basically asked, you know, when all this is done, right? Who is going to be on the throne for the Iron Islands? Who's going to be in charge? And, you know, with Theon possibly having a bastard son with the sea captain's daughter, does that create an issue? Like, who is going to be there? What role are we going to see Asha or Theon in with that? So for me, I think Theon and Asha are both going to survive the northern plot they're in right now. And for me personally, I think Asha is going to be the one that rules the Iron Islands. I really think it'd be great for her character. She's the most progressive of the couple of candidates that we see that are going for the throne of the Iron Islands. And to me personally, I think Theon is going to be a character that inherently is going to try to atone for his mistakes, his sins. I think he's going to be trying to help House Stark, specifically characters like Bran and Rickon. So I think he is going to be something that I think the show more or less did Theon pretty correctly. And I could think what his inevitable outcome will be sacrificing himself for the others or something along those lines. I think that makes a lot of sense for him. He's a character that I think the show did pretty well with. But with the bastard son, I don't know if that's going to have too much of an effect, Matthew, but I'd be interested to see like what your guys' theories are on that. Santino asks, if Euron were to take Old Town, could he feasibly hold it with a Tyrell host so close at Brightwater Keep, especially if his magic is limited to summoning Krakens and other stuff only really useful at sea? No, so I personally do not think Euron can hold Old Town. I think it's more of a sack and move on type situation. I don't think they're going to try, or maybe he even has like a little garrison that just tries to maybe hold it just to draw forces over to them. But I don't think it's going to be that. It's going to be a hit and run type tactic. I don't think he's going to try and hold it. No, I do not, Santino. Chiodo or Cheeto. Hopefully I said your name right. Do you think Darkstar will take the Sword of the Morning and join Euron in his squid god plans? And if not, where do you think Darkstar will go? Could the Danes in fact have Ned Stark's bones? Tinfoil hats are on now. I don't think they have Ned Stark's bones, and I also do not think that he will ally with Euron. But I think Darkstar has a couple possibilities. I think Young Griff is one of the possibilities. I think he could just make himself like a Vulture King like we talked about earlier in the stream. I think he could be someone that could just basically be doing things for himself and not other people. So I think all of those could be possible for Darkstar as well. I have no idea if Willis is ugly. But I know that Oberyn and Willis were not the best of friends because Oberyn is kind of the reason that Willis is in his like predicament. So I don't know. Victarion ruling the Iron Islands at the end. I think that's a bold theory. But yeah, I don't know. Any scenario where Baelish or Sansa end up aligning with any of the southern houses of the Reach, Stormlands, or Dorne? Or I kind of read that wrong, but I think, yeah, I think we could see Baelish and Sansa trying to meet up with Young Griff. I think that's the most likely of them trying to ally with any of the other houses, because it would put Sansa in a position where she would become queen, and Littlefinger and Sansa would both have a lot to gain. They could use that power to then help the rest of their family, or her family specifically. So, yeah, I do think that's possible. Victarion is your favorite book character, Ashley. That is wild. That is wild to me. He's a cool character and all, but favorite? I don't know. what is Euron's next move after raiding Old Town? So there's a couple things that we could look at here. So one of them would be that he goes to Highgarden, which is somewhat close now at this point. He could go down the rivers, attack that, or possibly he could go back to King's Landing, go down that way. I think there's multiple possibilities for where he ends up going afterwards. But I do like the idea that does he go to the Stepstones to ambush Daenerys? That'd be a really interesting idea. So I could see that as well. What do you think of the love triangle between Aegon, Arianne, and Sansa, like Rhaegar, Lyanna, and Robert in the past? Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I don't know if I see Sansa going there. I think it's a possibility, but I really don't want that love triangle again. I kind of would like it to probably just be Arianne and Aegon. I think it would make the plot move by quicker. Because I think it just makes more sense for Sansa and her forces to take the Riverlands and then try to help the North at that point. Will the Reach remain divided between combatants and winds, or will one force take control of it? Euron, Fagon, the Lannisters. I think the Reach is just going to be the new Riverlands in the Winds of Winter. I think there's going to be multiple factions attacking it, like Darkstar, Euron, Fagon, the Lannisters. I don't think it will be united by the end of Winds of Winter. Do you think Ned Bones never make it to Winterfell as a response to never getting other men's bones back to their proper? Yeah, that would be an interesting point, Violet. I think that makes a lot of sense. I like that theory more than like the idea that the Danes have his bones. You don't understand the brilliance of Victarion? I guess not. You guys got to explain it to me. All right, well, that's something I forgot about. So RJ points out that Oberyn and Willis wrote each other for years after he injured Willis on accident, I'm pretty sure. So that'd be cool. It goes Victarion, the Hound, Alaris, and then Barristan. No young Griff. Wow. Wow. Okay. I could see a situation in which Tyrion loses his tongue. It's been foreshadowed a couple times, and it would make a lot of sense that Tyrion's mouth is the thing that always gets him into trouble. So I do think that could be possible. I do not want a skeleton Ned. Let him be. The Reach is technically the most valuable part of the country as far as resources go, so it makes it sense to be... Yeah, I agree with you, Matthew. But yeah. All right, let us continue on. So here we go. Do you see Summerhall or the Tower of Joy coming back into a scene for the current story for a POV other than a Bran vision, like maybe Jon Con or Sam, for example? And two, in your opinion, what fate do you believe will happen to each of the Tyrells? So I've already kind of talked about the one with the part about the Tyrells. I think a lot of the Tyrells are going to die off. I think Willis, of all the Tyrells, I think is probably the safest. But yeah. Now, will we see the Tower of Joy or Summerhall, whether that's through people mentioning it, whether that's through whatever? I could see characters like Arianne thinking about the Tower of Joy and maybe what it represented. I could see a character like... Well, okay, so let me put it this way. The Tower of Joy inherently is going to come back into the story by like somebody referencing what happened with Jon or who was born or what happened at the Tower of Joy. That's going to be brought up again at some point. But will we actually see Summerhall or the Tower of Joy? I don't think so. But again, I do think it makes sense for Jon Con or one of these characters to kind of bring them up. Nice and short one for the last. If Euron raises a sea monster army or even gets a dragon, how do you believe he will be defeated? So I really like what House of the Stag has brought up with the idea that Bran is kind of the opposing force for Euron, suggesting that Euron is this character that inherently was a student of Brynden Rivers or Bloodraven at some point. And he was kind of like a failed student. He was someone that just went rogue, and it kind of messed with his head a little bit. I do think Bran could possibly be that character that maybe is a repelling force to him, with people like Dany and Jon, of course. I do think that could be something really interesting. Thank you for your questions, as always, Matthew. And by the way, I see you guys are talking about Jon's name. I'm a person that I find it very interesting to think about what Jon's name is. Because when you look at the three heads of the dragon, which is what Rhaegar was trying to create, it would appear. He had Aegon, he had Rhaenys. So technically, he would have wanted the last one to be Visenya, right? He would have wanted a girl. That's how you complete the three heads and go back to the original of the Conqueror and his sisters. So how would you then do that with Jon? Like, what name would you give Jon? Would you try and make a name close to Visenya, like Viserys? Or would you just make up a completely, like, another name that, passed on through Targaryen history, like a Jaehaerys, like a Aemon, like a, I don't know, name him another Aegon. What would you do? I mean, I think, to me, I like the idea of him being named Viserys, but I don't know. He also could be named Daeron. There's another wink to that, but I don't know. One of the dumbest things in the show is Jon's name being Aegon. Like, what Rhaegar already has a son named... Yeah, I agree. I don't like him being named Aegon. I think there's so many other names that you could possibly go there. Here's a big brain one. Really, really interesting name. Out of nowhere, he's just like, you know what? Let's bring the name of Aenys back, because everybody loved Aenys Targaryen. That'd be such a, like, letdown. I would hate Jon. If we found out that Rhaegar's original name for Jon was Aenys, I'd be like, oh god. Jon was meant to be a pacifist. He was a pushover. Yeah, I'm really interested in Jon Khan's POVs as well, Matthew. That's one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most outside of, like, the North. Jon's name is Maegor. That would be another wild one. Isn't it Aerion Targaryen that names, or was going to name his son Maegor? So there was somebody else that I remember was, like, doing that, and it was just wild. I don't think Euron was a student, but I think he was sought at and contacted until Bloodraven saw how crazy his was. Yeah. Metal, I completely agree with that. I could see that. I hope it's Jaehaerys. Yeah, I like Jaehaerys as well. I really like that. Jon was named after Arya. Oh boy. I think Lyanna chose his name. That could be possible. Jon's name is Daemon. That'd be a cool one. Well, Rhaegar never met Jon, so I think it's more likely that Lyanna gave him a name that meant something to her. That's possible. I mean, like, I think the idea could just be that Rhaegar knew she was pregnant and just gave her some names. Like, if it's a girl, Visenya. If it's a guy, Viserys or whatever, or Jaehaerys, whatever. Do you think Bran will be king just like in the show? That's a very interesting question, because I think that's a very George R. R. Martin ending to have Bran become king. The old gods or the children of the forest have kind of now crept their way to being the king. Bran's not really Bran as this character. He's not show Bran, where he's just like a robot, but he's a character that inherently is a vessel for something else. I like that idea. It makes a lot of sense. But now, because of the way the show did it, does George revert that? Does he do something different? I could see that as well. So I do think that makes sense for Bran being king in the end, but I'm not sure if George is kind of maybe taking a double take on that. Yeah, and that's kind of the issue, Alvarez, is that when we look at a lot of the younger characters, a lot of our younger characters end at a point in Storm of Swords where it would have made sense to have a 5-year gap, where we could say, okay, Bran was training. We could have Sansa training with Littlefinger for 5 years, understanding how politics work much better. It made a lot of sense for a lot of different characters. We could come back with Jon, who has been Lord Commander for a few years. We could see Dany, who's been ruling over for Marine for maybe a couple years or whatnot. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons why that 5-year gap made sense. But the issue is for a lot of other characters, the older characters, it didn't really make a lot of sense to do. There was just some moments that really wouldn't have added up that well, in my opinion. All right. During the Sleepy says, let's say Littlefinger dies or the like. What do you see happening with Sansa? I think Sansa inherently is going to be this character that is going to be pivotal to getting the Vale into the war. I think that's her main role. So she gets the Vale into the war and gets them to support the war with the others in the north. What is Sansa's role after that? Sansa could be someone that I think could rule the Vale, could rule the Riverlands. She's a character that is in many ways, I think, being shaped to be a character that possibly could be in a place of ruling. But I do think that is kind of the route she's going as of right now. Billy Bob says, do you think Vic the Iron Cock Tyrion matches the Sun Spear in length? And to answer that question, Billy Bob, yes. Victorion definitely is packing. Let's just say it there. Maegor would be cool, yeah. There can only be one Visenya. Every time they try to name their baby that, they miscarry stillborn or a boy. That's true. I'll turn out Rhaegar's name it was John. Oh, that'd be funny. That would be funny. Aenys Targaryen. Oh no, we gotta stop. It was Arion. Okay, thank you, Amir. Thank you. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see what happens to the kid. Like, what happened to him? Like, what exactly happened to this kid named Maegor? Which feud is most likely to be solved through peace/marriage? The Tyrell/Martells or the Brackens and the Blackwoods? Probably the Tyrells and the Martells. Well, no, if the Tyrells and Martells are all dead, I guess they can't do that. I guess they'll go Brackens and Blackwoods maybe, but that one, man, that's a tough sell either way. That's all I'm gonna say. Seen a theory that Fagon is a descendant of Maegor II, since we don't know what happened to him after being passed as king. Kind of interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of routes you can go with Fagon's like parentage. Like, think about it. I think Daemon, when he comes over, had 7 kids. That's 7 different lines of Targaryen, or not Targaryens, Blackfires, that line could go through. So young Griff could quite literally just be a branch of the Blackfires that's kind of been forgotten about. Maybe he's not like the most pure blood Blackfire or whatever. But again, think about Daemon Blackfire. His parents were both Targaryens. The Blackfires have pretty strong Targaryen genes, regardless. So, I don't know. Make Bran king of the North, not king of the 7 kingdoms. Interesting. George said you shouldn't rewrite if people figure it out. See, but the thing with that would be, okay, it's not that people figured it out, right? That Bran was becoming king, or it's not like people did it. It's like the show did it, right? And George probably told him that was what the ending was, or who was sitting on the throne. But now that he's seen somebody else do his story, he doesn't like it. I don't know. I think that'd be interesting. It would hurt Stannis' story pretty bad. Yeah, I agree, Billy Bob. Again, I think a lot of the older characters struggle. Louise, I'm a little confused by your question. Are you saying, like, what do you think Leyton Hightower is up to? Because Leyton Hightower to me is a very weird character. But I think he is someone that I don't know what he's up to. I just don't. He's a character that has been kind of not seen for a while. He could be doing some magic. Maybe he got a vision of the others. Maybe he's seen something to come. Don't know what's going on with him. He's a very interesting character. Stannis is my fifth favorite. Yikes. I saw this one theory that Jon's going to be so different after he got resurrected and eventually becomes the Night King just like the Night's King. Oh, that'd be really interesting, Violet. I do think that'd be really cool. I think it would be funny if Fagon was a Bright Flame. That would be kind of funny. What do you think the Brotherhood without banners will get up to? I think they are mainly going to be supporting, for now, Lady Stoneheart. I think they're going to be doing a Revenge Red wedding. It's been hinted at so much, in my opinion, that something has to come out of it. I think that is going to be what their main focus is on. When Stoneheart dies, which I think she inherently will, I think they're just going to end up probably backing, whether that's the Riverlands with the Blackfish or Sansa, or even they get news that the North has kind of fallen, and they basically just go up to help Jon and the living. I think all of those are possible options. Red or black, a dragon is a dragon. That is correct. That is true, Santino. That is true. Yeah, that would be really cool if, like, we go back and we're like, wow, this person had it right the entire time. That'd be really, like, just imagine that. Like, how many plot lines there are in Wins for someone to have every single one correct. I am not stupid enough to think I know and, like, what's gonna happen. I just don't. I know, like, a lot. I feel like a lot of the main stuff is, like, it just kind of, like, narratively has to go that way, but there's just things that you can't possibly predict on being completely right. Do you think Dany is going to be immediately on an opposing side to Fagon, or do you think she'll be happy at first at having a family member again, and then maybe she discovers the Mummer's farce? So there's a lot of options we have to consider here when we look at that. Tyrion is going to be someone that knows that young Griff is a thing, but Tyrion also thinks that young Griff isn't actually Rhaegar's son. So Tyrion's going to be telling Dany, yeah, this guy, there's something wrong. There's something up with this. Maybe he's a Blackfire. Maybe he's just not, he's not who he says he is. So we have to kind of look at this from two angles. Is Dany going to look at that and go, okay, this is a betrayal? Like, this is something that is just a facade? Or will she see it as something like, I don't really trust you yet, Tyrion, and I want this to be my family, so I'm going to believe it until I don't. Could we see, again, she's going to go to Pentos. I think it's just being built up, she's going to go to Pentos. She talks to Illyrio, and she finds out that, yeah, this kid is a Blackfire. So I think I think Dany is going to want to be happy and be on his side, but things are going to push them apart. You get a vibe that Sansa will get with Jon. Dear God, I hope not, Carson, but I could see it. What region of Westeros will suffer the most at the hands of Dany and the dragons? Specifically the dragons, probably the Crownlands. I would assume. I would assume the Crownlands probably. But yeah. The Hightowers and Velaryons in general need more info on the current state of the house. I agree. I wish we had a bit more about both of their houses. I wouldn't say the person had every plan, but George said he had the overall ending pretty correct. That's kind of crazy. I'll raise Stannis to 3rd. He will not pass Victarion or the Hound. Okay. All right. All right, guys. That is all of the questions that I popped up. I'm sorry if I didn't see yours or something didn't come up. I know YouTube sometimes just doesn't show me comments on my community page for some reason. Then I'll see it later on in my YouTube studio and be like, well, shit. But yeah, so thank you guys all for coming into the stream. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you had a fun time discussing all of our stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys all tomorrow's video. We'll be doing Sansa 2. Hope y'all enjoy that video. And yeah, well, I'll see you next week for the stream. And yeah, thank you guys all for joining in. Good to see you, Carson. Good to see you, Twiz. And